Welcome to the AA Ireland YouTube channel, and this week we're doing something a little bit different in that we are bringing our very good friend Paul Kieran out for a test drive in what is the new Volvo XC40 Recharge. Now Paul is in the process of shopping for an electric car, and this is the car that he was thinking of. So this week Paul is going to talk us through what he needs from an electric car and also what he thinks of this car. So Paul, first things first, why the Volvo?
Well, the Volvo, first of all, Paddy, I love the look of it. I've liked it since the XC40 came out a few years ago, and I like that the electric version of it is practically identical, other than the front grille, to the car I'm used to seeing. So I love the look of it. It has a lovely, solid Volvo feel about it, and while I haven't sat in it for very long, I get the sense that there's a quality feel about the interior too, and these are things that I like.
You're a busy dad. You know, what's the day-to-day from your vehicle? What do you need it to do?
Well, it's all the standard kind of local school runs and all that sort of stuff. We don't do a huge amount of long distance journeys. We go away to France maybe in the summer, but other than that, I would imagine that practically all of the charging will be done at home here. So just mostly short journeys in the area, some spins to Dublin, but most of the charging will be at home.
And why an EV now?
Well, I suppose the two main reasons, Paddy, are cost and the environment. Obviously there's the environmental factors are obvious, but and
obviously we're being pushed towards them as well, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I feel like from that side of things I'm ready to make the move. And the other thing is cost. I mean, I just serviced the Tiguan recently, and it was 1,200 quid. It's 5 years old. It's getting that much more expensive to run. And then I filled it up on Monday, and it was 110 quid. And yeah, and every time I do that now, I think maybe now I should be making the move.
Well, look, obviously it's nice to look at the car, but I think we should probably go and drive.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
So Paul, we've just jumped into the Volvo. What are your first impressions?
Oh, I really, really like it, Paddy. Yeah, it just feels like quality from the minute you sit into it. The lovely driving position, the steering wheel feels fantastic, and just everything around you looks premium.
Have you driven an electric car before?
Yeah, well, I've test driven a couple of cars. I've driven the Ioniq 5, which I really like, and also the Enyaq, which was quite a while ago now when I drove that. It was the lower, smaller battery version of it, and yeah, I just found it was a little bit weak in terms of power. But yeah, no, this has a feeling of a more premium car inside and out as far as I'm concerned.
So, I mean, people are being drawn towards EVs at the moment. As a customer at the moment going out to shop for one, how are you finding the experience in general?
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that you know, you have to deal with it is the lead time on the cars, and trying to get your head around what stock is available in the country and what you're going to have to wait around for. And like, if and when I am ready to pull the trigger, I don't want to be having to wait 7 or 8 months in order to get a vehicle, which is what you hear from some people. But look, the experience in the dealerships now has all been very, very positive, and certainly the figures that have been mentioned in relation to my car as a trade-in, I've been quite taken aback by how high they've been.
Pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely, yeah.
And in terms of your knowledge of EVs, in general, people still have questions. How do you feel you are in terms of getting your head around that technology?
Yeah, well, I've certainly been thinking about this for quite a while. So, and I've watched plenty of stuff on YouTube and that, and yeah, so I feel I know a fair bit. I understand about the financial benefits and that sort of stuff. You know, the range anxiety, which people talked about seemingly more at in the earlier days of EVs than they do now. Whereas now I'm at a point where if the range is 410 as opposed to 450, I don't really tune into that too much. The fact is, if I'm driving to Kerry, I'm going to be stopping off along the way, and I'm going to be topping up. So yeah, I kind of just take it.
Certainly for me as an EV owner, 300 was the
Right.
sort of point where I thought if it'll do that, that's okay.
Yes, I kind of think that's the case for me as well.
So look, in terms of the Volvo, we know there's two versions of the Volvo, and the first one that was really popular was the twin motor version, which is 408 horsepower, 660 newton meter stroke. That's a really big performance car.
Yeah.
This is the single motor one, 231 horsepower, half the torque, but still feels like quite an urgent car, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very often when I'm looking at cars, it's very tempting to look up to the model above and be tempted by that. But for me, with the XC40 Recharge, it was a no-brainer really. The single motor is a much more attractive option. It's 10 grand cheaper.
Price is
10 grand cheaper for a start, and also in terms of the performance, there's more than enough power, and I don't feel that you're sacrificing anything. Maybe when I was younger and the idea of going from 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds might have been very appealing, but no, not at this stage. The single motor is definitely the one for me if I do choose to go down this route.
And obviously then, you drive a Tiguan now, it does beg the question of why not an ID4, why not something within that family?
Yeah, well, I love the Tiguan, and if there was an electric version of the Tiguan, I would probably consider that. Okay. The ID4, I actually took a long spin to Kinsale with a friend of mine in his ID4 recently, and it was a lovely spin. It's just a personal view. I'm just not mad keen on the look of the car. Okay. The lines, I tend to prefer straight lines than curved lines, and I'm not mad keen on the look of the ID4.
This car isn't as big as a Tiguan, dimensions-wise, boot-wise. Would that be a concern for you?
Well, I just had a look at the boot there, Paddy, and I think it looks ample enough. I know it's not a big car, but we're not a big family. There's not many of us, and none of us are particularly big, so it feels spacious enough to me. I don't like having the idea of having a big footprint, particularly big car, and I mean a little bit more boot space for the times that we need. It would be nice, but no, I think this is more than enough.
Often people make decisions on cars based on a tiny element.
Yes,
so people, especially with EVs, say, "Well, what if I want to drive to Dingle?" And how many times do you do it? Well, I do it once a year. You can't make a car decision based on 1 week out of 52. So.
No, 100%, Paddy. That's absolutely it. And you need to be mindful of that when you are, thinking about what factors that are important to you. I know that if we're going to France next year, I would just need to figure out where I'm going to stop and that sort of stuff. But it's...
Well, look, I mean, I think certainly the Ionity network of chargers, which is now across Europe, will help. And this car has also plug share built into the Volvo app on the phone that the press car has come with. So there's lots of charging options. But in terms of charging, for you, would most of your charging be done at home?
Oh, the vast majority of it will be done at home, Paddy. Like you're talking about, maybe I would imagine just a handful of times per year where you would be requiring, or you'd be relying on the network.
So talk to us about the driving experience so far. You've been in the car a few minutes. How's in terms of handling? The tactile feel of the car? Is it an enjoyable drive?
It's lovely. I just want to keep it, and that's the reality of it. It just feels gorgeous. I'm looking forward to having a listen to the stereo earlier on. That's another thing that does attract me about it. It's got a Harman Kardon stereo in it, which is nice. We like to listen to the tunes when we're driving, and that's attractive. But the cabin feels really nice. It's really solid, chunky, and quality.
Any other cars in the mix for you still, or is this the front runner?
I think, there's things I like about all of them, and there are people who sing the praises of the various different cars in the space. For me, it comes down to my favourites are this and the Ioniq 5. I do like the Ioniq 5. I think it's a lovely design. There are some features which I think detract from it a little bit aesthetically, and
some people say, and some of the other journalists might, would say that the design might not age well because it's so quirky.
Yeah, I think that's possible, Paddy. I do not like what they've done with the plastic on the side of it. I just don't think, you know, they've let the side down literally a little bit on that front. I sound like very superficial here and the stuff that I'm talking about, but to be honest with you,
the car is an emotional thing, though.
Well, it is, yeah.
Obviously it's a big purchase, but it's also an emotional purchase.
Yeah, and I think that you used to be thinking about reliability and all these sort of stuff, these sort of factors, but a lot of that stuff you kind of just take it as a given that the car is going to be up to scratch in all of those in those regards. So it does come down to the feel of it and you know, and some of these other things. The Ioniq 5, yeah, I liked it and I drove it and I was impressed with it, but I didn't get the same feeling of quality on the interior as I do now. I get the feeling when you know, if you put your hand around the edge of a seat, I don't want to feel edges of plastic and that sort of stuff.
Well, and that's where manufacturers will save money. You know, the things that are right in front of you might be nice, but when you go searching down lower, things can go awry. But look, for sure, this is a very, very high quality product. You know, it is a lovely place to be as well. So, so for you now, Paul, this is still number one?
Oh, I think so, absolutely, Paddy. Yeah, it's just a case of just trying to make the initial outlay happen, but I think this is my preferred car.
If you'd like us to help you choose your next car, do email us on the email address below or get in touch in the comment section and we'll come to you and help you choose your next car.